Hello and welcome. I'm not standing today, and I'm not doing any of that because I'm still, I don't know, don't want to. Although I will be unveiling a new kind of look for this as these reviews come part of the Comic Palooza promotion. They're going to start being featured on a different channel, tying into Comic Palooza, the upcoming comic book convention for Houston. And I'll be having them posted on their website. I mean, I'll still be posting them here, so. For the 8 people that thought this might be going somewhere, it's not, so don't worry. Anyway, in a kind of bizarre twist of fate, this week I got mostly Marvel things as opposed to mostly DC things, but I'll get the DC things out of the way first. Not really out of the way. They're really good this week, the one thing I got that was interesting. First off, this didn't come out the same week as the book that it came from, but Legion of Superheroes, the Jim Lee variant for issue 3. That, yeah, I'm just buying the Jim Lee variants because I love Jim Lee and I can't get him on the interiors of a book, so I take what I can get. Anyway, first major book this week, Brightest Day number 7, with a very nice David Finch cover. This is really where we're starting to get into the meat and potatoes of this story. This really kind of is the thing that throws it all out there. Basically, why these people are back. And it's really good. I think it's probably the best issue of the series so far. This features all major parts of it. Again, we have Martian Manhunter segments, Aquaman segments, Deadman segments, Hawkman segments, and Firestorm segments. And in this book, Deadman, who's the only one that still has a White Lantern ring, finally comes into contact with the White Lantern battery, and all 11 of the people learn why they're here. Basically, this is where it's thrown down. All of them are given something that they need to do now that they've been back, and in one case, somebody's already completed the goal that they've been given. So naturally, I imagine these are going to lead up to some story beats that we're going to be seeing here in the future. Captain Boomerang gets his. We have a nice little splash page that features everybody not in Brightest Day, and it kind of is drawn by the artists from their books. Like Mark Bagley does the Justice League bit, Francis Manapul does the Flash bits. I think Aaron Lopresti or Keith Giffen or one of the Generation Lost artists does the Max Lord bit. They all the books, other books, their artists kind of come in and do this. So that's kind of cool. I like it when they do that. And honestly, not to spoil it, Zoom is the one who's completed. Basically, what the implication we're given is that once they complete each of these tasks, they will allowed to basically live scot-free, with no more issues as they've all kind of been having. And Zoom is the one who's completed his. Basically, not to spoil everybody else, but his mission was to bring the Flash back, was to bring Barry Allen back from the Speed Force. And he's done that. Naturally, he put a twist on it, I would assume, to kind of get past having to do it, as he did. He messed around with some things. So Professor Zoom is just back. And we're going to definitely see stories tying together as some of these missions definitely begin to come together with one another. I believe that Green Arrow is probably going to feature some major things here too. So this one is really kind of where it starts to pick up. And I mean, we got great art all around. David Finch does the covers, and then Ivan Rice comes in with Joe Prado to do the Deadman and Aquaman segments. Ardian Syaf and Vicente Cifuentes come in and do the Hawkman segments. Patrick Gleason does the Martian Manhunter bits, and Scott Clark comes in and does the Firestorm bits. And so we get a little bit of a teaser on all of them with the kind of White Lanterns. The White entity kind of lives through all of them and kind of gives them their mission and what they need to be doing here. So it's really quite good. I think it's the best issue so far, and I think now it's really going to start to pick up. I think this is, I've been kind of said before, that Brightest Day was still kind of spinning its wheels, I think, trying to get its footing, and this is the issue, I think, where it does it. So definitely check that out. Now, we get to a bunch of Marvel stuff now. Some of these I'm not going to talk about because I'm going to try to fit all these in the 15 minutes again. Let's start off first with Shadowland. Shadowland number 2. Shadowland number 1 got kind of crappy reviews. I liked it for what it was. That said, Billy Tan, reading this issue, Billy Tan is not necessarily the best artist for this book. He has a very kind of... It's kind of a rough, scratchy style, but it's still a little too, I think, dynamic for Daredevil. Somebody like Michael Lark definitely would have been, I think, the person to draw this book. Michael Lark, or I mean, even ideally Alex Maleev. Or even potentially Roberto Tellitore, who's doing Daredevil. I mean, that said, I still enjoy it. I think that this one is kind of last issue, so if you didn't read it, and if you haven't, you're not going to at this point, probably. Daredevil kills Bullseye. Assumedly. I don't think he's going to stay dead. But Daredevil guts him, plain and simple, right through the stomach, with his own side, or sword, or whatever. And so, and Power Man, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist witness this. And so now, kind of, the cause is becoming, how do we stop Daredevil? Kingpin ends up summoning what he believes is one of the Hand's greatest enemies, who I believe turns out to be Ghost Rider. That's how this issue ends. Ghost Rider shows up and he's like, alright, shit's on. So it's really, I think it's getting a little bit more in depth now. I think this is definitely a step up over issue 1. And Spider-Man manages to get himself involved, which I'm not a big fan of. Moon Knight makes his presence known because the basic gist of this is that in the middle of New York City, Daredevil has constructed assumedly a castle that's built in a very kind of Far Eastern style that he's just kind of living in. And there's a giant prison where he's keeping drug dealers, anybody that stands in his way, basically, the good and the bad. There's pimps and drug dealers down there right next to NYPD SWAT members. So Daredevil is definitely taking it into his own hands, and naturally, I mean, as the cover kind of suggests, Kingpin is kind of looming over, but all those people standing behind him are there to stop him now. They're basically saying he's gone too far. And so we will... it's definitely going to get interesting. I'm not buying any of the tie-ins to Shadowland because, you know, I'm tired of tie-ins. And 9 times out of 10, they're really not important. Like, there was a Bullseye tie-in out this week, and I'm like, the dude just died. Why does he need a tie-in? So, I don't know. I'm not interested, and I'm not going to buy it. But Shadowland number 2 is definitely a step up over 1. If you like the whole kind of street-level action, I think this is definitely your kind of thing. Anyway, we'll move on now to a book that I kind of waiting for one reason. This is Avengers Prime number 2. And there's neighbors' dogs outside making a bunch of noise. Now, this book is sold to me solely on Alan Davis. I honestly am quite tired of Brian Michael Bendis writing Avengers, but honestly, if he wrote all Avengers books like he wrote this, I wouldn't dislike him so much. This is quite good, I think. And a lot of that honestly comes from Alan Davis. Alan Davis is an artist who I really, really like, whether it be the stuff he's done with Fantastic Four, his Captain Britain stuff, his X-Men stuff, anything. He's done a lot of really great things. Miracle Man, Marvel Man now, I guess, since Marvel owns him. And this is continuing the story from last issue, where basically while Thor, Steve Rogers, and Iron Man are looking in Heimdall's observatory, they get transferred to one of the other 9 realms. We're still not sure which realm that is. But this issue is kind of them starting to gain their bearings, try to figure out what's going on. Thor runs into... oh god, I forget who he runs into. But it's Enchantress, rather. I'm sorry. Thor runs into Enchantress, and throughout this issue has a confrontation pretty much the whole time with her. Iron Man gets kidnapped by a bunch of savages, and they're trying to use him as kind of leverage for Thor, while Steve Rogers is kind of jumping right into it head first and runs into some local villagers. Somebody that reminds him personally of Scarlet Witch. So things kind of start coming to a head, and we realize that there's something much bigger going on, which at the end of the issue reveals itself to be Hela, I do believe. Yes. Basically the goddess of the dead. And she's basically... Apparently the gist here is that when Asgard was moved to Earth as part of J. Michael Straczynski's run, it kind of fractured the Nine Realms because basically Asgard was moved somewhere it wasn't supposed to be. And so this kind of is now the Nine Realms have fought the Nine Realms. Basically, in Asgardian lore, there's 9 realms, one of which is Asgard, and then Midgard is Earth. So when Asgard was moved to Midgard, it's basically fractured the other 9 realms, and Hela has been able to go through and kind of remake them in her own image, turn them into these dark, kind of twisted versions of them. So naturally, I would assume Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America. Oh, sorry, Steve Rogers, not Captain America, are going to have to go back and try to do something about it in order to try and restore order, which I may or may not lead into Matt Fraction's Thor run. We'll kind of see. I don't think it will overly so, but we'll see. Anyway, we are going to close out this week with a book that I quite like, S.H.I.E.L.D. This is S.H.I.E.L.D. by Jonathan Hickman, who's kind of an up-and-comer at Marvel. He's not really an up-and-comer anymore. He's kind of been really making his mark at Marvel. He took over Fantastic Four after Mark Millar left, initially with Dale Eaglesham, then with Neil Edwards, and then we'll be doing an upcoming arc with Steve Epting entitled 3, in which we're told one of the members of the Fantastic Four will die. Steve Epting, known mostly for his Captain America work, and several other things as well, but Captain America is the one that comes to mind recently. I believe he drew the issue where Captain America dies. But this book is by Jonathan Hickman, who will also be he does Secret Warriors, and he'll be doing the upcoming Ultimate Thor with Carlos Pacheco. And we got art in this by Dustin Weaver, who's also kind of an up-and-comer, but this is beautiful, beautiful art. I mean, fantastic attention to detail. I mean, really, really fantastic. I mean, just look at these layouts. Look at these pages. I mean, just amazing, amazing stuff that he delivers here. And, I mean, this is basically, honestly, the history of S.H.I.E.L.D. as an organization. I mean, going all the way back to the days of Emotep in 2620 BC, something like that. Yeah, 2620 BC. And this book, I mean, it's really, really heavily involved. I mean, you've got major characters from actual historical figures appearing. You've got, this issue focuses primarily on Isaac Newton and his relation to the S.H.I.E.L.D. organization. Previous issues have focused on Leonardo da Vinci, Galileo, Imhotep, I mean, all sorts of people, and there would be an initial relationship to S.H.I.E.L.D. Last issue, issue 2, ended with our main character, now Leonid, meeting Da Vinci for the first time. Everyone kind of wondering why Da Vinci's still alive. Da Vinci is almost Iron Man in this story, for all intents and purposes. So this issue kind of doesn't, it ends with the same moment issue 2 did, with them coming across, basically them walking into a room full of soldiers. So we are kind of given the backstory that leads us up to this point, and that is Isaac Newton. And his stance on all this. And we're basically, I mean, you almost have to phone through this because it's just so heavy and involved. I mean, again, I cannot speak highly enough about Dustin Weaver's artwork, because Dustin Weaver is doing, I mean, fantastic things. But the thing that Isaac Newton explains here is the fivefold understanding, basically the methodology for the reality, and it's the greater science, and we're given a glimpse into in Rome in the 16th century, basically, they have to repel Galactus, and they build basically a machine that works, and then it's still talking about the drastic costs it gave, and then Newton just goes on and then has to seek out the rest of these truths, and we're given kind of a glimpse just into his journey throughout this whole thing, and we get into the hidden arts as the second of the fivefold understanding, and we're giving glimpses into all of them. And we see Nostradamus again. Nostradamus reappears. The Quiet Math is the third. No, the Quiet Math is the fourth. Secret Alchemy, basically the sorcerer's, the elixir of life, is the third understanding. The Secret Alchemy. The Quiet Math is the fourth one. Then the fifth and final understanding is the Silent Truth. Basically, Isaac Newton kind of even says that he's kind of an anomaly for this group, basically by the way that he acts. So, basically, check this book out. S.H.I.E.L.D. is Jonathan Hickman. This guy's the next Alan Moore, as I heard somebody describe it, and I actually honestly believe it. So, that's going to wrap up this week. Just honestly, all four of these books, S.H.I.E.L.D. especially, check it out. I think you'll really enjoy it. We'll be back maybe later.